Good evening and welcome to tonight, Tuesday, August 6th edition of Georgia 12 Tonight. I'm Johnstone, a Republican congressional candidate for Georgia District 12, and we'll go over your questions and comments in just a moment, but a little review of today. We had a great day down in South Georgia in Vidalia and Swainsboro with all of our friends and supporters there. Had a wonderful breakfast this morning with the Toombs County Republican Party at Chatter's Restaurant in Vidalia. A great way to start the day. A great early way to start the day, too. That began at 7 a.m., so we were shoving off here from Augusta at about 4:30 in the morning. So it's been a good day. It's been a long day. We saw a lot of old friends, had a lot of great conversations about the issues facing the country, both there and in Swainsboro. We finished up the day later today, meeting with some great folks, previous supporters from our campaign in 2008 there. And what was universal, I think, that everyone talked about today was the need for some real change in strategy from our Republican leadership in Washington. There is a broad and general consensus among all the Republicans in the 12th District that we need to do more to stand up to the Obama agenda. We need to do more to stand up to the constant violations of the rule of law, the constant violations of regular order in the House and the way we're supposed to be passing legislation, how the House is supposed to work as a check and balance on the presidency, and we're not doing that. And from everyone we talk to, that's what we get, is we need to go to Washington and we need to start a new Republican Party with a new strategy to stand up for the country and restore some of the principles that we've lost. I heard that loud and clear today. That's a part of our message, and that's a part of the plan we have after we win the primary and move into the general election. And I hope you'll continue to support us with your donations, with your time and efforts. It was great to see so many of our signs up across South Georgia in folks' yards as the campaign continues to grow. And without further ado, we'll take some of our questions that have come in so far tonight. First is from Steve, and Steve writes, why doesn't the House just refuse to pay for Obamacare? I understand that all federal spending must begin in the House, so if the Republican House refuses to pay for Obamacare, it can't be implemented. And Steve, you're exactly right. The House in the past has refused to pay for Obamacare and has passed a number of measures to block funding of Obamacare, and in fact has added some of that language into the House appropriations bills. Here's the problem, and here's why it hasn't worked. For that to work, we've got to get into a budget shutdown situation, and currently our leadership does not want to get into that shutdown. When it comes right down to it, if we refuse to fund Obamacare, Obama refuses, and the Democratic Senate both, refuse to approve the bill that we defunded Obamacare with. If the funding bill is not approved, then all funding for that agency ends on September 30th. And if that happens, the agency shuts down, and our current leadership doesn't want us to have any type of shutdown. So invariably we come back and we pass some kind of stopgap funding measure that does not include that defunding mechanism. So we have a tendency to cave in over and over again. There's one side right now in Washington led by Senator Mike Lee in the Senate and a number of good, strong conservatives in the House that say, you know what, it's time to go ahead and tough it out and have the shutdown. And if we stick to our guns, we'll win. And if we pass a number of pieces of legislation to ensure that critical areas of the federal government stay funded through any shutdown, such as Social Security, national defense, federal law enforcement, the payment on our principal and interest payment on our U.S. bonds. If we guarantee that those are paid for, then we can afford to fight that battle. Right now, we don't have a consensus among leadership on how to do it. I would support Senator Lee's effort. I think it's time that we stood up. We stood up strong, we held our ground, and we let the voters decide who's right. Our purpose in going to Washington is not to stay there and have a career. It's to set the country back on the right course so that we can come home and get back to normal living. So it's time we had that fight. We stood up. I'll back Senator Lee in that proposal for now. It's a fight that's going on. Yes, we can defund it, but we have to be willing to stand up and stand firm after we do. So the next question, this one from Alice, who says, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are what caused the housing crash and recession by inflating the housing market with bad loans. Today, is Obama calling for them to be phased out? Is it calling for it? Is that good or bad? Well, as many of you watched on the news this evening and earlier today, President Obama did, rather surprisingly today, call for phasing out Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And those are the two agencies that forced banks to give a lot of bad loans that then sold those products in the investment market that led to the housing crisis that we had and the entire stock market crash and the recession. They have, both agencies, been involved in artificially inflating prices in the housing market and just wreaking havoc on our economy. So it's a good thing they're phased out. What we haven't seen from President Obama on this proposal, which always leaves us suspect, is what are the details? His statements today actually sounded good. He said we need to let the private sector work, let the private markets work in the housing market, and let the banks make the mortgage decisions. If that's where he really wants to go, that's a good thing long term to get us back on a free market track. However, how much federal intervention is there going to be in that individual private banking market? That's my concern, that when we get to the details, we'll find out that perhaps, yeah, we'll get rid of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, but we'll do so by adding new regulations to private banking. Let's make sure that's not included in the deal. We have to be open to it. It's, I think, definitely a positive step that at least now we're all talking in the same direction. But let's see what those details are before we decide one way or the other. Good that the president came out with the proposal. Finally, a question from Waynesboro. What about the ammo shortage? Is that caused by the government buying over 1 billion rounds of pistol ammo? And that's a question that's gone back and forth, as I've mentioned in some of the previous broadcasts, until I resigned my position in Washington earlier this year and came back to run for Congress for the next year. I was working for the chairman of the House Homeland Security Subcommittee on Appropriations, which oversees the Department of Homeland Security, which is the agency that made that buy of 1.6 billion rounds, the majority of which are 40 Smith & Wesson hollow points. We got a lot of explanations for that. A lot of folks, of decent folks inside the Border Patrol, who are not necessarily fans of the Obama administration, said it was not an unreasonable buy. What they were trying to do was issue one giant purchase order for the next 5 years and get their practice ammo at a better price. What the Homeland Security Appropriations Subcommittee has asked for is a detailed breakdown on where all that ammunition is going, how much is being used by each agency, how much is being used by each agent. Is that an appropriate amount to buy or not? Now, what we did get back as part of those investigations is that's not what's behind the ammo shortage. What's behind the ammo shortage is the shooting in Newtown, Connecticut last year, leading to a lot of people's fear that we would have a knee-jerk reaction in gun control, take ammunition and guns off the market, so you better buy everything you can get your hands on right now while there's still things to buy. Well, that, just like when we originally elected Barack Obama in 2008, we had the same situation there, a big buy of ammo on the market, a shortage. It's short term, from all evidence I've seen, including going to some gun stores around our district and seeing some of the stockpiles beginning to rebuild again. That's going away. But that was not caused by the government. That was caused by all of us running out and buying as much ammo as we possibly could right now and running into a temporary shortage. All of our major manufacturers, from Remington to Hornady to across the board, said that they were not having a shortage of ammo. They were running 24/7 a day in production, but they did not want to build any new production facilities because they recognized this would be a short-term fad, and as soon as it backed off, they would not need that production capacity again. So they're simply running maximum production now to resupply those shelves, and we should get back to a normal supply situation shortly. That's it for tonight. Thank you for joining with me this evening. Again, it was a great day down in Vidalia and Swainsboro and seeing all the folks down there. We look forward to talking to you tomorrow night at 9 o'clock with more Georgia Tonight, Georgia 12 Tonight. And until then, good night, God bless Georgia, and God bless America.